and welcome back to part 21 of What If Naruto Had a Rinnegan with my amazing new thumbnail for this series, which I made today after struggling, and it still looks pretty shitty, but I don't care. I made that. I'm proud of myself. I'm not lying, too. I'm actually pretty proud. I remembered how to freaking cut things out and put it back onto the image. Again, I did it only the one time with that Goku versus Mewtwo image I used for What If Mewtwo was in Dragon Ball. But I remembered finally how to do it with the Goku Omnitrix one. So now with my thumbnails, I'll be finally able to make them at least a little bit better representations of what I'm going with. I digress. So last time, we pretty much went over the training arc. Just to recap real quick, Sasuke's pretty well trained up at this point. He's got his Sharingan. He's got more or less all the jutsu you could pretty much give him at this point. He doesn't know every jutsu in the Hidden Leaf, not by a long shot, but he knows a lot of them. Fully mature Sharingan. Hinata has been training more with her Gentle Fist, probably added a couple lightning jutsu, including, I actually forgot to mention, she almost certainly knows the Chidori because she has a Byakugan. Doesn't have the same sort of ability as the Sharingan does, but in terms of for the tunnel vision that the Chidori does give, I imagine the Byakugan is capable of countering the tunnel vision. And with Kakashi as her sensei, it would make sense he would teach her that. Naruto has been experimenting more, learning more with his techniques, his six-pass techniques. He's, like I said in the previous one, knows how to use his chakra a lot better, has learned the Naraka path. Chibaku Tensei is now available to him. He's mastered, when I say mastered, he's near mastered his Rinnegan at this point. Now, by the way, just real quick, people do bring up, it's like, Naruto can use yin and yang, man. Naruto can definitely use it. That's what makes the paths abilities possible. I'm aware of the yin and yang, but when people talk about the yin and yang stuff, they're talking about him just creating things out of nothing. And while that might still be available to him down the line, like it was to the Sixth Sage, I do not believe that he can just do that. Even at this point in time, I don't know if he'd be able to do that. I don't personally think he could. Also, I add on that Naruto did learn Sage mode from the Toads. Jiraiya felt it would be a boon to him, and the Toads made an exception despite him not being a summoner because he does have the Rinnegan and is a prophesized child of legend. And this allowed Jiraiya to also learn his own, or master his own Sage mode. So we left off with Gaara being kidnapped by Deidara and Sasori. Deidara, because he was Deidara's target. So basically now we are back to the Leaf, with Tamari was helping host the Chunin exams. I mentioned that all of our Team 7 are actually Jonin now. They still work together from time to time, clearly, but they're also independent at this point. But when they're here that Gaara has been kidnapped, Naruto springs into immediately requests the mission. Kakashi, basically Team 7 reforms. Because if it's a Akatsuki that's involved, and they know this, they are going to, even though they're all Jonin, they are going to need to, put their A game into this. So they need a full team. So they catch up with Tamari. Naruto, there's that scene where Naruto says that he is the container of the Nine-Tailed Fox, the way he understands Gaara, and he needs to help him. Naruto still keeps his illusions, not illusion per se. It's not a genjutsu. It's more of a ninjutsu. He still keeps his technique up for his eyes, but around people who are a lot more trustworthy, he will let it down. Like Gaara, for instance, if I'm not mistaken, I made it so Gaara knew he had the Rinnegan. So I imagine Tamari might know at this point, and Naruto's perfectly okay because he can trust Tamari, he feels. Anyway, they get to the Sand Village. Now, you'd wonder what goes on with Kankuro. Is it Hinata who helps Kankuro? Well, I imagine Hinata doesn't actually have medical ninjutsu under her belt and is probably pretty competent with it because Naruto knows it, and he probably figures she would know it very well, pretty competently as well, too. However, it is Naruto who is actually the one who helps out Kankuro in this, but he does ask for Hinata's help with the Byakugan, as they both work on him simultaneously. Because I'm sure he's had lessons with Shizune and even Tsunade due to the fact that he took Kabuto's abilities. Does Chiyo still attack Kakashi? Oh, I'm sure she does, and I'm sure Naruto still gets in the way and stops her. Anyway, cut now to, because this is actually now we're kind of flying by a little bit, because there's certain aspects that we don't need to go into the conversations they have per se. The conversations probably don't change that much. So Naruto and the gang head out. Team Guy also is meeting up with them because they felt they needed backup. And obviously you have the interaction with Itachi and Kasame. So obviously the Team Guy Kasame thing that goes the exact same. The Itachi, Naruto, and Team 7 stuff, that's different. So Itachi, why did you do Itachi, you're here to stop us again, Sten? I'm here to do what I must. You will be coming with me, Naruto. This will not be Naruto. Is yeah, I'd come with you if you just told the damn truth. You're clearly hiding something from us, Itachi. Why you still never told us exactly why you did what you did. I told you it was for power. I don't buy it. The guy who saved my life, the guy who was who pitied a young boy on the street, doesn't just go off and kill his family. Why? Family. And the Sasuke chimes in. Naruto's right. You're not telling us something. What aren't you telling us? To which Itachi's just like, damn it, they're a lot more perceptive than I was hoping for. It's like their time for talk is over. And he tries to use genjutsu, and Kakashi just chimes in real quick. It's like, Itachi, how much of your eyesight have you lost? To which Itachi does give that little huh? And even Sasuke and Naruto are a little like, huh? Because I'm sure with their training, they're not quite aware of Kakashi's Mangekyo Sharingan. I imagine because his training with that has probably been very tedious, and that's the ability of Kamui is not something he wants them nearby, if possible, while he was training with it. So they're not aware, I think, he has the Mangekyo. Or Mangekyo, depending on your pronunciation. Whatever. So you get a similar interaction as you did with them in the original, except Sasuke's there, so he can immediately just counteract the genjutsu that are coming. And even so, Sasuke, Naruto, and Hinata are Jonin at this point, and Naruto can access some Fox Chakra on Will, so they just break the genjutsu immediately. If anything, it does actually go relatively easy for them, because this isn't even the real Itachi. He can't even use, I think, like a third of Itachi's strength. So it's unfortunate, but yeah, this Itachi gets put down pretty quick. Now, again, the goal is not to kill them. The goal is to kill him. The goal isn't to kill him; it's just to put him down, which they put him down, but it's revealed it's not the right Itachi. So anyway, they beeline for this the Akatsuki hideout. They all get there, and they all see the seal. Now, because of the nature of the seal, you might think, well, the nature of the seal is we're gonna have to remove it all at the same time. The seal's gonna be removed. Which Naruto just walks up and looks at it when he's got his Rinnegan just looking at it and just He can see the chakra because the seals have chakra in them. That's how they work. And Naruto's like, maybe not. It's like, hold on, and he puts there and he just whispers, "Pray to Path," and he starts to absorb the chakra out of the seal. And eventually the seal just kind of pops off, and they realize they can get in there without the need to rip off the other seals. And this does not go unbeknownst to the Akatsuki in there, particularly Pain, who can sense like something's wrong. The seal's been removed, but the after effects of the seal have not been activated. Someone's siphoned the chakra off from the seal. Have you absorbed all the Shukaku yet? It's like, we're not quite there, just about there, because it did take a little while for them to get to the seal, hence why Gaara's Shukaku was nearly all absorbed out of Gaara. So because of that, now basically you just hear dynamic entry, boom, and Guy just bursts through there, and sure as shit, as quick as they can be, they see Gaara getting what chakra's left out there, and Naruto can see Shukaku's chakra is nearly gone. But more than anything, he sees the is it Geto Maze? Basically the Ten Tails body. We know what it is. Geto statue. Was it Geto Mazo? That's what it was called. the husk of the Ten Tails, basically, the Ghetto Mazo, and he sees it, and all of a sudden he just gets like a flash, like past life flashbacks, like that. What is that thing? Why am I getting such an ominous feeling from it? He's like, he sees like a silhouette in the back of his head briefly with 10 tails just hovering in the background, just like what. It's like no time to think, no time to think. It's like we gotta help him. It's like it's Kakashi and in my guy of belief and Naruto's, and they brought the Nine Tails container. It's Sasuke, but they brought backup, and Naruto quickly just rushes, and he's not even thinking, just Basho Tenin, and when he says that, most of them don't know what it is, but and obviously Naruto's eyes flick into the Rinnegan because it's still because everyone's still there absorbing the chakra, like the Akatsuki members there. The members who were there to like be absorbing the chakra can hear and see. Most of them don't hear that, but Toby and Pain and Konoha on the other hand, their eyes widen like fuck because they at this point no one in the Akatsuki except for I think Itachi has known about the Rinnegan, and Itachi kept that to himself, I'd imagine. So because Itachi, let's be clear, Itachi was playing both sides. I mean, he was ultimately a spy for the Leaf. So despite while they might break that news in some way or form to them, like he had used some unknown ability to stop us, I don't think he'd let it be known that he had the Rinnegan like Pain. Now, when Pain sees like it's impossible, another Rinnegan, and he's able to pull Gar out seconds before all of Shukaku is pulled out of him. Now, don't get me wrong, he's still knocking on death's door, but because he was able to retain just enough of Shukaku, well, let's say 100% Shukaku in there, he's down to like 2%. Like, he's got literally nothing left of Shukaku's power. If anything, I think Shukaku is still more or less absorbed into the statue. It's just that a little bit of that residual chakra is still in there, similar to how those brothers from the cloud became pseudo Jinchurikis. Similar to that. So he'll retain a little bit of that Shukaku chakra, and more or less, there's so little amount of it left that it's pretty much like permeated into his system. So it just boosts his overall reserves ultimately. So he basically brings him gets Gar over to Hinata, who again does no medical ninjutsu in this version. It's not to the same effect as a Tsunade. She's not Tsunade's apprentice or anything like that. Or Sakura in the original. Again, not Tsunade's apprentice, but she's probably like second tier. Like, she's probably actually Naruto's level, roughly speaking, because Naruto's not a medical ninja either. He just learned the techniques. So that's why he needed Hinata's help for helping Kankuro. But she's holding his lifestyle, and she says his lifestyles are in critical condition. But I think I might be able to stabilize him. But I'm gonna need to get him outside and cover him. And getting outside and not be part of the battle, it's fine. And Naruto's like, it's fine, we got this, Hinata. Which Kakashi, Sasuke, Sharingan's activated, Guy, Neji, Tenten, and Lee are all there. It's like, well, this is, and Deidara and Sasuke are just like, well, this isn't something we were hoping to deal with today. They interrupted the mission, and at the introduction of the mission, what is your orders, leader Sama? To which Pain's like, if you can get the Nine Tails, get them. Otherwise, don't avoid your even roll of your skill. There's too many skilled opponents here to be dealing with. Get out if you can. And so all right, that's right. Come on, my man. Let's come on, man. Let's show them what art really is. It's an explosion. No, art is everlasting. And it's like whatever. And Deidara creates his bombs, and he's ready to throw them at the gang. Unfortunately, he just hears lightning thread, to which Naruto and Sasuke both do that, basically just defusing everything because they can see chakra and they can see it's earth based, so defuse that with electric lightning chakra. Deidara falls to the ground like, well, it seems they know your weakness, Deidara. What are you going to do now that you? Or say, I actually got to do his Sasuke voice a bit better. What are you going to do now that you can't use your bombs? This is quite the irritation. You want to take over, buddy? And to which my guy and Lee quickly just boom. Oh! To which Data actually kind of looked at Sasori thinking, he's like, oh no, they're gonna, and they just break his neck pretty much, just, and he's dead on the ground. Just, uh, we may disagree, but he was still an artist. I still had respect for him. And next, now he'll become become part of my art, just like the rest of you. And he just starts firing off poison needles, to which everyone's doing their best to avoid. Neji using rotation, Tenten, blocking with weaponry. But ultimately, it's just Naruto just shit on Tensei, poof, and just boom, blasts all the needles back. Just, so it's true, you do have the Rinnegan. You do have Leader Sama's eyes. You will become my greatest puppet. No, Naruto Uzumaki. After we distract the Nine Tails, I will make you a true, eternal piece of art. And he reveals his true puppet's nature, only for him to just kind of get lifted up, just it's like, what? It's like, and Naruto just basically using a combination of shit, Shinra Tensei and Basho Tenen to basically just lift him, just boom. And it's like, yeah, I doubt it. Basho Tenen starts ripping the puppet apart piece by piece, and now he pops out. It's like, you're not giving me much of a choice here, are you? And Chio looks out, like, it can't be. He looks the same. He just and Sasori's not dumb. He knows he's got to pretty much go full out on this. Just he reveals, like, he became a human puppet, brings out not just the third Kazekage, but his entire puppet army. Just the crackling. It's like, you should know the poison I poisoned that boy with. All these puppets are laced with it. And Naruto and Hinata just calls, like, Naruto, Gar's fading. We gotta help him. And Naruto's like, ugh. And Naruto's like, I could take you on myself, but why take all the fun from my teammates? I gotta go help. I'm gonna help Gar handle this. And it's like, got it. And, they're all now having an epic battle with the puppets. Kakashi and Sasuke are basically defusing the puppets with Kazekage's iron release with lightning chakra, because it's magnetism, so that's how they're diffusing it. And then Lee and Guy, Neji and Ten, they're taking out the other puppets. She summons her 10. It'd be a really epic battle. I think it'd be really cool. Meanwhile, though, Naruto is going out to Gaara, and he can sense his life force fading. It's like, Gaara. And he says, like, he goes into his mindscape, and it's like, I'm going to need extra chakra for this. It's like, and the fox is looking. I was like, you're trying to save the Shikaku, brat. And Naruto's like, the Shikaku's no longer in him. I don't care what you and your brother's issues are. My friend is dying. I gotta save him. And you and I both know you're not as evil as you make out to be. On some level, you do care about people in some capacity. I care nothing for you, brat. You Ningen. And then Naruto finally just looks him straight in the eye with the rain gun. But he's like, cut the crap. It's like, look, I don't know what it's not my fault you were sealed in me. It's not my fault you were controlled. I've never had any inkling to control you. At worst, I've just wanted your help. If you don't want to help, fine. But don't stop blaming me and other people for things they didn't do. Yeah, don't blame, or Naruto just looks like, or says something more lines like, don't blame the entirety for something one did. We're not all that bad. We're not all evil, and I think deep down you know that. And if you gave some people a chance, maybe you could learn that too. And Naruto's like, but I gotta go save my friend now. To which the fox is legitimately stunned. Naruto almost never talks to him like that. Like, actually, exudes authority over the fox, but he did, and the fox, all of a sudden, there's some chakra enveloping Naruto. Just it's like, and he's only in a one-tail state, but it's still more than enough to help him do what he's about to do. And he looks over to the fox, and the fox just, you're annoying, but you're annoying, brat. You know that. And to which Naruto just gives his fox, yeah, I am, but I'm right too. It's like, you, and the fox just kind of like is sitting in his cage, just like, stupid brat. But he does have a bit of a softer look on his face, like kind of like thinking. He's like, he's not wrong, I suppose. Maybe there are people who aren't that bad, and he does think about he thinks about the six, but he also thinks about Naruto too. It's like That's something the sage would have said to him. But anyway, Naruto gets that elect chakra, and then basically he uses the seventh path. Now, obviously, as we know, the seventh path is designed to resurrect individuals, but it does come at the cost of life force, probably chakra as well. It ends up turning the hair gray when you end up using it and ends up killing you. However, in Naruto's case, Gaara's not completely dead, and he's got extra boost from the fox, so he does use it. Now, I think what would happen, though, with Naruto's like hair, for instance, is he does get some white streaks in it. Like, it takes a lot out of him, like, it maybe even drains his life force. Being a Uzumaki, he's got a lot of it, fortunately. But it is a bit straining on him. But ultimately, Gaara's fine. He's got maybe like actually, I could see him having more like a white streak in his hair or like a silver streak. Silver actually looked pretty good. And it's like, Naruto, are you okay? It's like, I'm fine. It's just, that's a technique that takes a lot out of me. More so than pretty much any of my other techniques. And sure enough, you can sense his vitals coming back. And, they'll cut back to the fight. Sasori is basically defeated with the seal. There is no Orochimaru thing because obviously Orochimaru's dead now, along with Kabuto. So they win the day. Deidara's dead. Sasori's dead, like legitimately dead this time around. And they end up saving Gaara. Everyone shows up. Chia's still alive, so there's that little bit of advantage. They're now hanging out in the village, getting ready to say goodbyes, and Naruto and Hinata are kind of just having a flirty conversation because they're dating, and Hinata's like kind of does the actually. You remember X-Men with Rogue and Wolverine where it kind of like touches the streak and shows off. She goes, I kind of like it, and I was like, oh god, my hair, I'm gonna have to like get a hair dye or something like that. And to which Hinata kind of just plays with the hair a little bit. She's like, I kind of like it actually. It's like, well, I mean. Then again, I could always keep it. It's like I do. And she kind of like teases him a little. It's like, I do kind of like it. And she gives him a kiss on the cheek. It's like, okay, I'll keep it. Anyway, they say their goodbyes. Kakashi's perfectly fine. So there's that. Now, actually, we have time to actually talk about the non-Sasuke retrieval arc. What's actually going on? Because remember, we have like a bit of a time frame between Azuma and the Kakuzu situation. So what is happening here now? Well, first off, I never really established where Sasuke stood relationship-wise. Is he in a relationship with Sakura? Is he in a relationship with Karin? What's going on here? Well, I would imagine right now Sakura is... I don't actually think Sasuke is still in a relationship right now. What I do think, though, is that he's on much better terms with Sakura. I think actually they could become pretty decent friends. Quite frankly, I think that. Sakura's done a lot of self-improving. As I said, she's learned more Genjutsu, more Earth Jutsu, studies the medical ninjutsu. She's probably she's like everyone else, a Chunin at this point. And she's actually become a fairly competent shinobi, I imagine. And Sasuke, gives her praise for that. And occasionally they'll get a bite to eat and hang out, things along those lines. I don't think her feelings have changed, though. She's still in love with him. Karin, no, Sasuke's not involved with Karin at this time. I think Karin kind of had to play the Sakura game in terms of catch up, because Sakura was actually making more attempts than she would. Now, Karin was a more competent ninja than Sakura was. But she was also a lot, I guess the term would be, thirstier than Sakura was. Like, let's be honest, no. I heard someone say, it's like, yeah, it was like, that's what Sakura Part 1 was doing. Not quite, it wasn't. Again, she was like literally going to try to rape Sasuke in bed, for God's sake. Karin was. So I think Karin did have to learn to chill out a bit. And I think she did, and I think eventually she made a solid impression on Sasuke, given her capabilities. Oh, she's still after him, absolutely. In that being said, I think she's also noticed like other attractive men in the village too. She's probably noticed Haku. She has no interest in Sugetsu, I imagine. I think honestly she might find Jugo attractive in some way, but probably not, because she's had enough experience with the psychopathy that probably is a turn off. Like maybe she could be interested in Ki, but there's a lot going on here. Should note too that Suigetsu, Jugo, and Karin have also all become Chunin. They're part of the village. They were probably a squad under Zabuza for a while. Haku is definitely a Jonin at this point. Now someone did mention that Zabuza's goals and all that, and I mentioned that as we get older, our goals and our fundamental, fundamental views do change as we get older through different experiences. And I actually imagine Zabuza, that's why anytime Zabuza joins the Leaf, some people get a little like, well, that's not what his goal was. True, but goals change if it meets your needs. And learning that Mei became the Mizukage might help that also. He wanted to overthrow Kaguya, Yagura. But if Mei is in charge, then there might not be any need. If anything, Zabuza being a part of the Leaf now might actually help bridge relationships with the Mist, and they're not, and that's probably been brought up. But they're probably still in the stages of working through that. Meanwhile, on the Danzo front, because we know Danzo had a part to play putting Sai on Team 7 in the original, Danzo has been under basically close scrutiny. Like, they have that information. They have the information about with Orochimaru. But again, it's not quite enough to guarantee putting Danzo away for good, simply on the grounds that he's a very conniving guy. And he's kind of got a contingency for a lot of things. And they know he's a warhawk, and he's a veteran shinobi. A retired, mind you, but a veteran shinobi. So they've been biding their time, and Danzo also isn't a fool. Like, could tell after knowing that Orochimaru and Kabuto are dead that something's a little off. He's never been able to actually figure it out, despite the fact he has. Oh God. Okay, there was Fu. Okay, Danzo. Crap. What was the name of the Aburame that was with him? Danzo, because he has Aburame in he has a Aburame en route with him. It was actually one of his bodyguards when he went to the when he went to the Kage. So went to the Kage summit. Okay, what was his? And he had a Yamanaka too, as well. Don't forget that. The red hair guy was a Yamanaka. Let's see here. What was the name of? I just want to know those guys' name. Okay, Torun Aburame and Fu Yamanaka. That was their names. So he does have some clan members in the route with him, but that doesn't mean they'd immediately be able to know like they're being spied on by insects per se. Though the Aburame would probably have a better likelihood of figuring that out, but once they realized he was en route, they'd probably have to try a new strategy. So keep that in mind. But yeah, Danzo's still been under close investigation, and unfortunately, because they're all Jonin, he can't just put someone on their team because there technically isn't a team anymore. If anything, they've probably led teams before. I'm not going to go into the whole, hey, Naruto's a team leader, Sasuke's a team leader, all that, but they've probably led teams before being Jonin. Well, actually, that's not entirely true. You don't need to, as far as we know, you don't actually, that's not a requirement to, you need to show that you're able to lead a team, but not necessarily be a teacher. So maybe they haven't led Genin teams before, but they've led teams of Chunin, most likely. So, ultimately, we get to a bit of a time skip lull until Ozma is ultimately killed by Hidan and Kakuzu. Now, during that time skip, there is one thing that I think will be brought up, and that is Jiraiya and Naruto going over the nature transformation of the Rasengan. Because you'll notice in the time skip, I didn't bring that up. Because he's been focusing on so many other things, Naruto hasn't been able to actually, do elemental Rasengans yet. But that would be the next step of his training, is to do elemental Rasengans. Should also note that at this point, he can do his 6 paths, or shadow clones. He can basically do 5 different shadow clones and basically have his own version of the 6 paths. So we should note that as well. Ultimately, yeah, that's where Naruto basically is by the time he by the time they learn that Ozma is killed, that he's basically working on the Rasen Shuriken. And then, or wind is as strong as attribute, but then all the other versions as well. Which we'll maybe get into more of the versions in part 22, but for right now, we'll end part 21 on Ozma's death and Naruto training. Until then, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, if you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. Ideas for what would win, Star Wars, Super Magic, what if, anything to do on the channel. Put that in the comments below. Let me know. I'll get to that at some point. Hit that bell if you want to be notified. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.